Okay. So today we have a guest,
A
not in the
special
Philippines,
guest.
but on Zoom. A special one, yeah. Danny Ramos, and he goes by the name of DJ Dramos,
What's
right?
up? What's up? Yes.
Right?
You got it right. Yeah, a lot of people mess up. They say Dramos, so you got it right in the first try. It's a good job.
Maybe because I'm Spanish, you know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That was racist. I said that was racist.
I mean, not really. It's just I'm pronouncing it the way I'm reading it.
Right. 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 You're good.
I don't know. It was a joke.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know a lot of people know, like they know who you are because of the radio, the Breakfast Club, but they
Mhm.
don't really know like.
Yeah.
Who you are.
I'm one of the producers on the Breakfast Club. So I guess a lot of people know my face as the dude who sits next to Envy every day. And then I'm a DJ, producer, radio personality, podcast host, just a bunch of different things, I guess. But yeah, the Breakfast Club is probably the thing that people know me the most from, beyond like a bunch of other radio stuff. I DJ for Z100 here in New York as well, and just like a nationally syndicated radio show as well called Most Requested Live.
Nice. So
Hmm.
I just want to say shout out to DJ Glow's Live because I'm a huge fan of yours. Like
Oh,
I
thank you.
love the Breakfast Club,
Hmm.
and I will always be like everybody else. Who's that guy that's always sitting next to DJ Envy?
Right.
So I would like tweet them like, "Yo, what's his name?" Blah blah,
Hmm.
and they would tweet me back for some other stuff. I don't know.
Oh, really?
So I see, so my friend DJ Lowe, he sent me a video the other day. He's like, "Oh look, I think you would like this video. You're like
Hmm.
explaining exactly what you do," and
Hmm.
I'm like, "Oh my God, that's the guy."
That's funny. It all works out then. That's good.
I know. I'm
Fact.
excited that you accepted the invite.
Nah, of course, man. I gotta show love. I love having conversations.
So you were born here in New York,
Uh-huh.
and you were raised in New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
Um, how did you get into the whole industry?
I mean, I guess it started just like I used to play in bands and stuff like that, and that I guess was what got me into everything. I used to go on tour and do that kind of stuff when I was like 18, 19, 20 years old. And then when that ended, I started DJing, and from there, that's where I kind of started meeting a lot of different people. And through that, I met some people who worked in the radio station, and just kind of like years and years of building relationships that led to me getting a job at KTU in New York, which is another iHeart station here that's on the same floor as Breakfast Club, which is on Power 105. And then just through that, you start meeting everybody at the different radio stations, and eventually Breakfast Club had an opening like a few years into me working there, and it all kind of just panned out that way.
So I,
Okay, that's good.
huh?
I said that's cool.
I know. You know what's interesting that you started off in a band. Like
Yeah,
I would have never
Right.
thought.
As a
yeah,
drummer, right?
yeah,
Oh,
drummer. Yep.
And how did you like? How did you start all that? Because I know
Um,
you even went on tour, right?
yeah. I mean, it just kind of started like at the time it was like I think a classified ad on like a website, a musician's website, and I met certain people that played other instruments, and we just kind of linked up. This was like MySpace days, so we used to book tours via MySpace, connect with people via MySpace,
was
and
it a rock band?
yeah, like a metal band.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
I seen a picture of you yelling, talking about you like you enjoyed yelling in the mic or something like
oh
that.
yeah, I was a singer at one
Yeah.
point too, like a metal band. I mean, I just always like fuck with music. It didn't matter what genre it was. I always liked different things. Even when I was playing in that kind of band, I was still listening to everything. So for me, it's always just been being creative and fucking with different types of music.
So can you give us a snip on what you used to do before?
Nah, I retired. Good try
How
though.
come? How come? It's just
Nah.
all right. It's cool that you retired. You
Now
just
he's a DJ.
20 years.
Yeah, nah,
Yeah.
I can't do it for you no more. I'm out of practice. You gotta leave me alone.
And
Okay,
by the
okay.
way, without the beard, you look like G-Eazy, the rapper.
Really? Okay, I'll take it. I'll
Look,
take it.
and I was like, wait, I had to look at the pictures back and forth, like, that's him.
That's funny. Okay, I'll take that.
So who inspired you to like become a DJ and to be in a band?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff for the band. I can't really remember what it was, but I think like DJing, the transition that happened for me was DJ AM. He started doing this project with Travis Barker, who's the drummer of Blink-182, and they were just like melding stuff together. So they were doing live drums, but then DJing as well, and they're merging all genres together, like hip hop, or do country, they would do pop, everything's together. And it just opened my eyes to like a DJ can pretty much do anything they want to, you know. So that kind of kicked in the door for me wanting to do it. I had always like had an interest in it, but that was like when I recognized like, man, so like all my different musical tastes could be in one place, and you know, this is kind of the outlet for me to do it. So that's kind of how DJing all started for me.
Yeah, man, you've been DJing for like more than 10 years, right?
Just about. I think it'll be like 10 years this next year, so almost 10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And how was it working in KTU?
It's cool. I mean, that's family. To this day, those are like some of my closest relationships that I have. They really like took me under their wing, and everybody there, you know, treated me like family from the beginning, and taught me all the things I need to know, and are, you know, the main reason why I get to do a lot of stuff I get to do now. So it's really, that's family. That's like, I give everything, you know, a lot of credit to them, because they really taught me a lot of stuff that I know now and put me in positions to win right now. So yeah, for sure.
And how long you was there for?
There, I mean, I was there for like 3 years, I want to say. I used to do like the overnight
Okay.
shifts. I used to run the board from midnight to 6 a.m. every day, and that was like,
Oh wow.
yeah, it was crazy. And then I would just go, still be in there during the day doing random stuff. So like that was definitely like where I learned do a lot of stuff, and it's just like that's family, like I said, man.
Um, wait, what was I gonna say? When did you start like radio producing, and how did you learn all that?
So the KTU stuff kind of taught me like the hands-on part for it, basically like how to actually run the physical board itself, the engineering aspect. And then I got a terrible job while I was still working at KTU, like a terrible job working on like a conservative radio show. It was terrible, but it was like a bump in pay. It was a full-time, first time I was made full-time over there at iHeart. And it was first time like really producing stuff. You had to pitch ideas and like, you know, be more involved in editing things and stuff like that. So that started like helping things out, and then Breakfast Club stuff kind of all took off after that, and that's where I started really learning more of I guess the producer stuff from there.
Oh, so you didn't actually go to a school for that?
No, I went to school for entertainment business. So that's my background in that, but I didn't actually go to like radio production or anything like that.
So
And
what were you hired for in KTU?
It's called just like a board op, so that was like the overnight
Oh,
thing.
okay.
So it's just
Oh,
like
right, right.
running the boards, making sure they don't go off air, you know, segging the music and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
and
And
how
how did you like that job?
It was cool. I mean, it's like lonely, you're by yourself, but but it's cool. I mean, it got you like the key card to get into the building. You know what I'm saying? So like that was the biggest thing, where that
Mhm.
allowed me to be there anytime to go do stuff, to network with people, do whatever. So that's like the most important part. I mean, the job itself was boring. You're there by yourself, and you're just basically babysitting, making sure nothing happens. But you know, it was also, I got a lot of stuff done because I was there by myself. I had my laptop. I would always be, you know, researching stuff. I used to watch a lot of Breakfast Club interviews overnight like that. So it's just kind of funny the way things all turned out.
Mhm. And
Wow.
how do you like? How do you meet people? Because I know we get a lot of questions about
Mm.
how to network, how to meet the right people, but how exactly do you do it? How did you meet? How did you get your way into the whole radio?
I mean, there's no like exact science to it. You don't know if you're going somewhere that you're gonna end up meeting the right person. But I always say to that, like, you just got to keep showing up to things. You know, eventually you're gonna meet somebody, but it's not gonna happen overnight. You're not gonna think that you go to a couple events and you're gonna meet the person that's gonna end up like open the doors for you to change your life. It's honestly, it's a lot. It takes a lot of time. Like for me, it was DJing for a few years, and even once I started meeting the right people, it still was a few more years before any opportunities came from it. You know, so it's a long road. You can't expect anything else. It's really the biggest thing that happened for me. Why all these things happen is because I always said yes. Whenever they would invite me anywhere, I always said yes. If somebody was doing something, I always showed up to support. And eventually that starts building up the relationships. People start seeing your face a lot more, and that's what you got to do. You know, the biggest thing you can do is just be the person that they always see, even if they don't know what you do or who you are. They're like, damn, I always see that person. And eventually, like, some sort of relationship is going to come from that, you know. But it's just like there's no science to it. You just got to keep showing up to everything. Find out where the people that you want to meet are, and just show up and you know, do your best to try to like meet somebody.
Right.
Yep.
I That's exactly what I say.
Yeah.
Like you go to
It's
friends.
that's what we try to do. We try to go as much as we
Hmm.
can to support people. You know, we
Hmm.
don't always make it, but we
Yeah.
give it a try.
I mean, that goes a long way when you're doing something creative and people are showing up to support you. You know, you're going to kind of start noticing that and take interest in what they're doing as well.
Right, right. I agree. What year did you start working for the Breakfast Club?
I think it was like 2 years ago. I want to say at this point. I don't know. I think it was 2 years because it's weird. There's two rooms for the Breakfast Club. There's a local New York side, and I started out there, and you don't see that's not on camera, so it's like in a whole other studio. That's where I originally started. I did that for almost a year until I ended up coming into the base of that room that runs like the whole national board that you're sitting next to them. So I think it's been like it might be 2.5 years at this point total with the Breakfast Club.
And how is it working with them?
It's cool, man. It's definitely like weird. Sometimes it's definitely like an out of body experience. Sometimes when you're in there, like, cause I, grew up listening to them. I remember my last like actual 9 to 5 job. I would listen to Breakfast Club every morning on my way to work. So like to be in that room is crazy. Sometimes when you're across the table from certain artists or guests, and you're just like, damn, I can't believe this is like really happening right now. It's dope. I mean, obviously it's got its challenges as well. It's not like it's a very demanding thing. You're doing things at the highest level possible when it comes to radio. So there's a certain expectation when it comes to your work and what you're doing and how you're doing it. So it's definitely it's fun, but it still comes with a lot of pressure as well.
I have a question. Since you said there's two rooms, so the Breakfast Club when you played in the morning, that's one room, and then when y'all guys recorded in Revolt TV, that's another room.
Yeah. So basically,
Or
the Breakfast Club
do y'all record? Sorry, do y'all record it twice? Like, how does this work? Now
no.
I'm confused.
So the Breakfast Club is nationally syndicated, so it goes to like almost 100, or I think it is 100 other radio stations around the country, right? So in every radio station, they have somebody like what I was doing for KTU. They have somebody watching the board basically, so to make sure nothing happens on their end, or if it does, that they can like throw something on if say dead air happens or something like that. So New York still has somebody in the other studio just like it does, but everything is all the audio, everything that's happening is coming out of our studio and then being broadcast everywhere else. So don't let like the second room kind of thing fuck you up. It's really just like picture that room could be anywhere. That could be the radio station in Miami that's broadcasting Breakfast Club. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make a difference what we're doing. Revolt, all of us in the same room. That the whole show happening live is in the national room basically. So that's the board I control. So if I like, let's say, turn off all the audio on my board, it turns off everything around the country. So that's what you got to like, keep up. So that's what that is. So and if that was to happen, the dude who's on the New York side would like play music or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's like his job to do that kind of stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's how I hope that was like a good explanation. It's kind of
it is. It is.
So one of the reasons why I started because I would watch the Breakfast Club whenever I can, but I usually listen to it.
Yeah.
And I noticed because you always like defending Latinos. So I'm like, oh, who's this guy? And I know that you just started the podcast First Generation.
Yeah, First Generation Talks.
What exactly is it about?
So that's basically just like representation, right? Because representation is so important, and I think that our experience as Latinos born here in America is different than what our parents experience. We have the culture that they instilled in us, but also we have our own culture we grew up in. Wherever you grew up, I'm assuming you guys are from New York. So, in New York, we grew up on hip hop just like anybody else did and different things like that. So, but we still, have like the Elvis Crespo and the Mark Anthony influence in our lives. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's this weird balance of things, and certain things are important to us that aren't important to everybody that listens to hip hop. So, we have our own little culture, and I feel like there's not necessarily enough representation when it comes to that, aspect of Latinos. A lot of it is like Univision is like meant for the Spanish speaking Latino, that's their experience. This, for me, the podcast is speaking to people like myself who were born here and have kind of, both sides of the coin, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like us.
Yeah, we're first gen.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Even in hip hop, like, there's a few, Latino artists, but it's not, that normal to see, there's the Fat Joes of the world, there's the Puns, there's a few people like that, but, we all listen to everybody, but our voice isn't being heard necessarily, you know what I'm saying? Like, we fit into, like, this weird thing where, even if it comes to, like, you got your cousins back on, like, in where I'm from Puerto Rico, so I got cousins back in Puerto Rico, and it's like, you're a gringo to them, you know what I'm saying? But over here, it's like you're too Spanish for other people, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's this weird kind of concept that we don't fit in anyway, So to me, there's like this lack of representation happening,
You're right. I was dying with the episode with the whole the football,
the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
Yeah. Right, but that's what I'm saying. You had people like complaining like, oh, it was way too Spanish, or where it was like Ja Rule, where was this? And it was like, yo, like, I'm not complaining when there is like all Beyonce Super Bowl, or it's all, that kind of thing. It's like, I don't see myself in those people, but I'm not going to complain about it. So now we had a moment and people are feeling, some type of way about it. But that needs to become the norm, because it's the same thing when, at one point hip hop wasn't the norm. Hip hop wasn't like this commercial genre of music. It was like an underground thing, and it was, known to be like a urban thing or whatever it was, and little by little it became more and more a part of pop culture. And to me, what's happening with the Latin music and Latin culture right now, there is like a lot of this fusion happening, and we can exist in both of those worlds, and you're seeing it happen. The Super Bowl was a perfect example, I think, of what the future of that kind of stuff, can hold.
Yeah, I agree. So are you still with the other podcast, the Beats and Booze?
That one's like on a hiatus, I guess. We're not really doing much with it right now. So yeah, I don't know. I can't talk about too much because we're gonna move it somewhere else, but I'm not really sure what's going on. Obviously, the world is kind of crazy right now, so that for right now it's like indefinitely on a hiatus, I guess.
And you want to ask something, Anna?
I'm gonna get back to the Breakfast Club.
Go.
So in the Breakfast Club, like, what are the times that you have to be there? Because I know they start early.
Yeah, it's early. I got to be there at 5 a.m. Every morning, so that's the time I show up. One of our other producers gets there around like 4:30. I get there around 5, and then like Yi rolls in around 5:30, and the rest of them kind of show up right before the show starts at 6.
And what are you like, from all the celebrities that you have ran into, which one has you feel like has been your favorite? Because they've been like so, like, you would never think that they were like that in person.
I mean, I think like just because it's recent, that one of them, Will Smith, has to be like one of them, because it was like it. He was like larger than life, but still was like the nicest person ever. You know what I'm saying? So it was like this weird balance. It's like the first time I truly felt like, wow, that's what like a star. You know what I'm saying? When they say some people have like just that star power, you feel it when they walk in a room. Like he was like in our little like lobby waiting room and was just like interacting with everybody, and you just felt like his energy, And when he walked in the studio, he came and greeted everybody from, obviously Charlamagne and Envy and all them, to myself, to the interns, to anybody, the camera people. He was like super friendly, shook everybody's hand, like was just not. He was like everything you would hope he would be and more, to be honest with you. So that one, you just felt it. Like he just has energy about him, a presence. It's crazy.
As what you see on IG, on TV and stuff. Mm-hmm. The same Will that you see in person.
Yeah, for sure. Super inspiring, very down to earth, very just like, interested in people, and doesn't think that, he's Will Smith, basically. That doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if he's in the room, you feel like he's Will Smith, but he doesn't give off the perception that he thinks he's better than you because he's Will Smith. It's just like a weird balance. I don't know how he does it. It's kind of crazy.
What is...
Sorry.
Say it again, because
has been like that you've met, that came across your path?
Oh, so you cut off the first part. You cut off.
Is there anybody else that you met that came across your path?
That same kind of feeling as Will Smith, like that same.
Yeah.
50 Cent is like that. He's he's cool. He's like very. When he speaks, he makes eye contact with every single person in the room. So like, it's not just like Envy. It's not. He'll look at the intern in the corner taking notes. He'll look at every single person to make sure that he's engaging them in the conversation. And that's like, to me, like, like stuff like that is just huge. Like the fact that he's taking the time to like, acknowledge everybody in the room and wants to make sure you're all invested in the conversation, even if you're not speaking, I think is huge, because that's rare. Like that's a very rare thing I've noticed. Like not a lot of guests do that.
Yep, that's a fact.
Yeah.
What is Here the Beard about?
That was just like a slogan, a little tagline to like brand myself, basically, So obviously I have a beard, and it was just kind of like anything I do, you're hearing what I'm doing. So whether it's the music, it was the radio stuff, that was just like another way to kind of brand myself and make everything a little bit bigger.
Nice. I know you're into like vintage clothing. Why is that?
I think of it, it's like art. It's like wearable art to a degree. A lot of it is like rare, hard to find. Every time you find, even if you see like the same shirt, it's going to be in different condition. You know what I'm saying? Like the story that's behind it. Like who knows who owned any of these like these vintage pieces before you? What's the story behind them? And it's just like exciting. It's like collecting. It's something, and it also just has like a nostalgia thing. Like you can collect stuff from when you were a kid, like that makes you feel a certain way, or like whether it's an old artist, a band t-shirt, old clothing company. Like I love like vintage Tommy Hilfiger because I was obsessed with it as a kid. And I remember having like all the bootleg stuff from back in the day, so I couldn't actually afford to buy it for real. So now for me as like an adult, I'm like buying all the shit that I wanted when I was a kid, you know. So
So
it's just cool.
talk about Tommy Hilfiger. You actually met Andy Hilfiger. How was that?
It was cool. That's like another person that it's wild to just meet somebody who's like so much of a legend and they're just so normal and down to earth, you know, and like so receptive to hearing, you know, new ideas and meeting new people. And I think it's a testament to why Tommy Hilfiger became what it was, because not a lot of people know his brother Andy was like the one behind connecting all the musicians and stuff like that with the brand, you know, and a lot of that stuff is iconic, from Aaliyah to, you know, TLC to Usher, all that stuff. So Andy was always like on the pulse of like trying to meet these new artists and embracing hip hop when at a time when people didn't feel like that was like, you know, commercially okay to have hip hop artists, you know, representing a brand or wearing your stuff, you know, and they embraced it and supported it. So to meet him, somebody who's done that, and to see like even at this point in his life, he's still open to meeting new people, excited to hearing what like the new school, you know, thinks about certain things, and like always wanting to just, you know, have his pulse on you know, have his finger on the pulse of everything. It was dope. It was just cool. His stories are amazing. Like I was sitting in his office before we filmed that interview and anything like that, or just hanging in his office one morning when we first met, and he was just showing me old videos and telling me old stories and stuff like that. It was amazing, honestly.
Did you meet him through how did you get in contact with him? Was it through DM?
Yeah, I came up with a whole like scheme to meet him. So I was like, I did a bunch of research and I was like, all right, so Andy's like the guy. And then I found his IG and I was like, well, I think it's reachable. Like, you know, he has some followers, but I still think I can reach him. So what I did was, me and my guy EJ, who's like my graphic designer guy, photographer, all that stuff. We just came up with the idea like we're gonna shoot our own basically like Tommy Hilfiger campaign. So we like shot a bunch of pictures and stuff like that, and then I just did like a post on IG, and I just like, you know, asked all my followers like tag Andy Hilfiger in this post. I just sent him like I sent him a DM and just like let him know like, you know, what I'm all about. And I'm a big fan, and then I had everybody and I told all my followers like, please, you know, support me, tag him in this post, and tell him to read his DM. And eventually that, you know, it was a few hundred people did that, and then he DM'd me later on that night and was like, hey, we could definitely meet up. Here's my email, shoot me an email. And that's kind of how it happened.
That's great.
Yeah, that's wild.
That is so lit. Yeah.
You watched their show back then, I think on MTV.
Oh yeah, with the Hilfiger family. Yeah.
Love it, by the way.
I remember that for sure.
I want to ask you a question. It was before Rena had asked you about Andy.
Yeah.
What was it we was talking about before that?
We were talking about it wasn't Breakfast Club stuff, was it? I can't remember.
It was
right, all right. It was?
I think so, yeah.
I don't remember. But anyways, so what stopped with the what was your brand with the beard?
Here the beard?
Here the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you guys stop?
Not stop. Here the beard is just like my hashtag basically. The Beats and Booze thing is what is like the podcast I haven't been doing for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Got it confused. Sorry.
It's so funny because I also heard the interview with Lizzo, and she told you like a fuckboy because of your beard, and I'm like, I think some girls do think like that, like when they see I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I do think that way too. I'm like, oh, he's a fuckboy. But how did you feel her calling you that?
Well, that was like her and I had history because I had interviewed her for the Beats and Booze stuff. So when we did that, like I guess she I don't know what her deal was that day, but like I guess she had done a bunch of interviews, so she was trying to like fuck with me basically. I think she was bored. So like she was kind of coming at me when I was interviewing her, so we had like this whole back and forth, just like joking around one another. It wasn't like serious, but it was just basically like being assholes to one another, which is fine. I can have that kind of humor as well. And then she like called me a fuckboy in that interview. But then after that, I knew she was coming to Breakfast Club, so I was like telling them like, yeah, I actually interviewed her and this is what happened, blah blah. And then they were like, well, we're gonna definitely talk to her about that. So that was like the first thing when she walked in the room. They were like, you know, hey, you remember this dude? And then they're like, you called him a fuckboy, blah blah. And then that kind of started this whole thing.
That's hilarious.
That's funny.
I kind of related to what she was trying to say, and I was like, yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. She's funny, but it's all in good fun. It wasn't anything like there's no beef or anything like that.
You're also a sneakerhead and you go to thrift shops. Do
Yeah.
you buy your clothes from there? I know you
Yeah.
went to one in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a bunch. If I go to a new city, I always look up like a thrift shop if I know I'm gonna have a little bit of time to kill. I always like go to a thrift shop, or I follow different people on IG like who I know, and if I'm in the city that I know they live in, I'll hit them up and just try and link up. Like I've done that in Vegas, and I met a couple. This dude has a IG called LV Finds, and he just has like a dope collection. His entire house is basically like a store. Um, so I linked up with him, and yeah, anytime I go somewhere, I go when I go to LA, I hit the different vintage shops over there and like the flea markets. Yeah, anything. I mean, the city I'm always running around. Brooklyn Classic is my favorite one right now. That's where I shot an interview with my guy Radam is over there for a show I do on the Breakfast Clubs channel. So that's one of my favorite ones right now.
My vintage stuff.
Hmm.
My question was, what was the most expensive vintage piece that you have paid for, and what's the history behind it?
um, I'm trying to think what the most expensive. I don't go too crazy because I always know I can find it. I find like I know I'm pretty resourceful. If I see it in a store, I'll find it somewhere else on like eBay or some shit. But one thing I did buy when I was in Vegas, I think I dropped like 400 on a jacket. It was like a what was it? It was it was like an MCM jacket, but it was like you guys know like Dapper Dan who used to cut up like all the Gucci stuff and make like jackets and stuff. This was like same kind of style, but it was done with MCM. So somebody cut up an MCM bag and then made it into like a windbreaker. And I never seen that before. And
So
like I think it's bootleg, which is fine, but it was still just like the hand craftsmanship of it, and it was just like somebody took the time to make that. So I dropped that. And I might have bought. I'm trying to think. I think I spent like 500 or 600 on maybe on like a pair of Jordans that were like uh, the original ones that I've wanted from a while ago. I think something like that. But I try to be pretty like not dumb when it comes to money and big purchases like that. So like that's the only ones that I think I could look back on and be like, I might have paid a little bit too much for that, whatever it is.
That's interesting because not a lot of people go shopping to like those. It's weird to like come across someone who's like, yeah, I always go shopping to thrift shops and stuff like that.
Nah, it's dope. You find a
thrift
lot of
shops
stuff. I
before.
mean, I
Mhm.
just think
Yes, you do.
it gives you something like different. You know what I mean? It's like it gives you a story. It gives you it's like a icebreaker when you walk in a room. It's like you have something that nobody else has seen or haven't seen in a while, or brings them back to a specific time in their life. It's just like it gives you a conversation. You know, that's one thing actually on the conversation of networking. Um, it's not not everybody can come up with it, but like if you can find whatever your identifier is, like for me, when I this is like before the whole beard trend really happened. Like when I had the beard, like people always remember me. Oh yeah, that's that dude with the big beard. You know what I mean? And like even if they didn't know what I did, like they kind of always remember me, and like they always remember my face. You know what I'm saying? So like I had that identifier. It gave me something that like they would always remember me when they saw me out somewhere, like in a different context. So that's the tough part is like when you meet people who are doing a lot of things, who are successful, they're constantly meeting people, they're constantly in different environments. So like it's tough to remember faces, and I'm not like anywhere near as successful as the people we're speaking about, but even sometimes I forget people. It's not out of malice or anything. It's just like you're moving and passing in certain things, and like a lot of times these events, they are just another event to you because you're going to so many different ones. It's not like it's anything that's going to be embedded in your brain. It's just like another networking event, another meetup kind of thing. So like if you can figure out ways to have something, whether it's like having cool style or whatever it is, like as an identifier, that's always helpful when it comes to networking. So like the vintage stuff always helps that. Like people kind of always know like, oh, he's a dude with the cool vintage piece all the time, a cool windbreaker, cool jacket, whatever it is. So all that kind of stuff is always helpful. So it's one of the things I love about, I guess, the vintage stuff too, to tie it all together.
Yeah, I mean, you do stand out when you're like revolt. The
Right.
breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like, thank you. But I mean, that's half of it. It's like I'm not speaking much, but I have noticed that people have taken an interest, for whatever reason, whether it be like I was walking around from where my apartment is in Jersey City, and somebody's like, "Yo, you're the dude from the Breakfast Club. Like, you always got the fly like vintage jackets on." I was like, "Yeah." So there you go. Like that, gave something for somebody to remember me by. So like little things like that. It's just like I could just show up in like a jogging suit, every day and like not put much effort, but I'd like to at least try to do something.
To not put no effort, people will still recognize you because you're on TV.
Yeah, kind of,
Like,
but then again, they
you
just think you're
know,
gonna do like you could fall in line with being anybody at that point. Like even I think at the end of the day, it's like you gotta just put in the extra effort wherever you can. And it's like those little things, you know what I'm saying? Like even if you're thinking that somebody knows who you are, like this is kind of a different conversation, but like even if you assume people know who you are or know what you do, like I always, even when I walk in a room, it's always like very humbly, I don't assume what the Breakfast Club is. I'm not going to assume you've seen me on there, that kind of thing. It's like always just take the extra step to just like make an effort to make people feel comfortable, or to make yourself look as appealing as possible when it comes to the way you speak or the way you dress, whatever it is. It's just all those little things, I think, lend itself to people being more receptive to wanting to speak with you and help you out.
I agree. That's true.
Which performance has been like your most memorable one? Because I know you've done the Z100 one,
Jingle Ball.
Jingle Ball, yeah.
Yeah.
One has been like the most memorable one.
When I did the iHeart Music Festival in Vegas, the first time, that was cool because that was like a whole brand new experience. That was like, I don't even know how many people are out there, but whatever it was, 50,000, whatever. It's huge. It was like a huge outdoor festival. That one I DJ'd, and then I got to DJ a club out there for the after party. So that was like, to DJ a Vegas club was such a huge bucket list item for me. Outside of that, in New York, Webster Hall, I did that recently. That was literally like a dream of mine when I first started DJing, like ever bought equipment or anything. Webster Hall was a goal of mine. And then I think Irving Plaza is the other one that was like huge for me. So I would say those ones right there are probably the most memorable that I can think of.
Have you ever?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, have you ever made a mistake?
Oh, all the time. All the time. Like, yeah, shit happens all the time. Like, it's just, there's not much you can do. It's live, you're there, you're doing it. So like, especially as a DJ, it's like, if your laptop starts messing up, ain't nothing you can do. I've had like somebody drunk hop up in like where I am and knock my laptop off and stuff like that. Like, so like, there's not much you could do, live setting. Even sometimes you mess up, like, mixing two songs together, whatever it is, it's like nothing you could do. You just got to kind of roll with it, So yeah, mistakes definitely happen.
The most embarrassing moments that you could remember and will always remember?
Most embarrassing ones, man. Like there was a bunch. I'm trying to think of one specifically. What is my most embarrassing one, man? There's been so many. I'm trying to think. One time, I think this is like was recent. I can think of like I was on the radio in Connecticut. I was doing like weekends over there, like my own on-air stuff. And like my first opening thing, like my voice cracked so bad on it, like embarrassing like thing when your voice cracks really bad. So that happened on like live on the radio, and I could do. And I'm trying to think of a few other ones. I mean, this happened actually. This one was like just annoying because it was nothing you could do with technology stuff. I DJ'd this thing for Z100. I was opening for Lil Nas X and Marshmello. So it was like huge. It was at like Pier 94. Packed, and for whatever reason, like my computer was having issues with like the equipment, so it kept turning itself off basically. Like so I'd be mixing and like and all of a sudden the music would just stop, and it'd be all these people just like sitting there like, yo, what the fuck? And it happened like 2 or 3 times, and it's like literally nothing I could do about it. It was just one of those things.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's very embarrassing. That's like a show, like a big show, one I was really excited about, and like you kind of, even though it's not your fault, you still look like you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right. I mean, people just look at you like, what the fuck is wrong with this?
Right. It's just yeah, but there's nothing you can do. It's just you gotta kind of just accept it and move on from it.
Learn. That's it. Put it down for the books.
So, what would be like an advice you would give someone who is trying to follow your footsteps?
I think in general, with whatever you're doing, it's great to have goals, and you should definitely like set goals and chase after them. But don't be so set on the goal and locked in on the goal that you're blind to other opportunities that come along. Because for me, what I'm doing now wasn't necessarily like my long-term goal. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I started recognizing as doors would open and opportunities would come about, and I wasn't afraid to pivot. And that's the biggest thing I think in life is like allowing yourself to pivot. Don't get so locked into something that you miss out on a blessing that was actually your real calling. And I see it so much. Like an example would be like I see it so much with like rappers, and there's a lot of guys who are probably like really good networkers, really good like maybe even just great at branding, good at so many things, but they don't actually possess like that once in a lifetime talent that it takes to be, one of, of the top rappers or to do it for a career, and I always see that and I'm like, man, if this person would just sit down and recognize that and realize that they probably would be like a great artist manager instead of actually being the artist themselves, they would have a successful career because they're great at everything else. They're great at building this whole entire thing and getting somehow in the doors and somehow getting the meetings and the conversations with the right people. They just don't have the the quality product that they need to step it up to the next level. So what you do is you pivot. If you're smart in that position, for the sake of this example, pivot and say, I'm not that talented, like have enough, I'm not as talented as some of the high level people. I should find somebody who is that talented and be, their manager, and I can start a business out of this, It's the same thing with like Charlemagne talks about that in his first book, where it's like he originally wanted to be a rapper, and that was like one of his things, like and he had a mentor that was like, stop doing the rap thing, you're not good enough to make it, like you're great at this a personality thing, and that's where he just invested all his time into being personality, and had he not have done that, who the hell knows what would have happened, he would have been maybe still chasing the dream of being a rapper or whatever. So it's like you gotta know, you gotta have that self-awareness to know, like, yo, I'm not talented as like the people who are really doing it, because those are like once in a lifetime talents in that field, but I have other attributes that are beneficial within a similar field or whatever. So being unafraid to pivot, I think, is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
What other advice would you give us, since we have like a podcast and trying to be personals on the radio and stuff? Like, what advice would you give us to?
I mean, just keep, linking with people. I think collaboration is the biggest thing, because, when you interview somebody, their audience now might be checking you out, so that is the biggest thing. You're doing it the right way, reaching out to people. I think that is like the biggest thing in any field, but collaboration, getting, on other people's podcasts, getting people on yours, vice versa. You're just going to keep opening yourself up to different people's audiences, and eventually, you might have one that ends up clicking, that they really love your stuff, and builds up slowly like that, or you have a moment that goes viral. Who knows what it is, but that, I think that is the biggest thing for growing any of this kind of stuff, is like collaboration. So if you don't have the money to invest in like really marketing and buying whatever ads and things like that, if you can keep collaborating with people and figuring out ways to use each other's resources, that's kind of the biggest thing you could do for growing any of this kind of stuff.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Of course.
Is it harder now that we're going through the whole outbreak with the coronavirus? Is it harder for you to work from home? You are working from home, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it sucks. Like, everybody's working from home for the most part, I still would go in and do certain things, but for the most part, I've been working from home. But yeah, it's like it's not fun anymore. You know what I mean? Like, the energy isn't the same. It's not as much fun as it was. I'm not gonna say it's not fun anymore, but it's not as much fun. Mm-hmm. Everybody's not together. We don't have the energy of being in the same room together. Everybody has a lot of other stuff on their mind. You're not just there, doing the radio stuff anymore. There's a lot of other things that you're thinking about with everything that's going on. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do it. It definitely doesn't feel, it definitely feels more like a job right now, but there's worse things obviously that I could be doing. I could not have a job at all. Right. So it's kind of the time we just kind of keep our heads up and stick through it, because we know that this is just a temporary kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. You guys are not recording for Remote TV.
Yeah, so I think they're gonna start Monday, recording from their houses. So they sent them some equipment so that they can broadcast it on Revolt. So I think it'll be cool. Back. Yeah, it'll be back this week on Revolt. Yeah.
Go ahead, Nana. Ask your question.
So my question is, if there was one thing in the world, what would you change and why?
In the world, or my life in general? In the world as a whole, or my life?
In the world.
In the world, man. I think I would hope that, I want people to just embrace like realness a little bit more. You know what I mean? I think that like in social, and we're seeing it now because we have no choice. Like, people are looking rough. You know what I'm saying? So like, you can't be pulling the shade anymore. Of like, everybody's stuck in the houses. There is no more fake influencer type of shit going on right now. But I think so many people are obsessed with looking like they're successful instead of actually trying to achieve real success. And it's a mindset that's terrible to have, because you're just trying to put on a show. And a lot of times, like, you putting on that show could be setting you back from actually achieving real success and real happiness, you know? And I think this idea of success isn't necessarily just being rich or any of these kinds of things, because we see, you know, celebrities have, commit suicide, they have drug problems, drinking problems, they get divorced. Like that money isn't, making them, able to avoid any of the problems that the rest of us go through. So the reality is that like success and happiness actually comes from it is like, being able to do the things that you actually enjoy doing, and having the freedom to do those things and do them the way you want to do them and be surrounded by the people that you want to be surrounded by. So I would just hope that people will start realizing that and not chasing these, things in life that really don't mean much and really don't bring you much happiness. And I know it's easy to say that when you've gotten to experience certain things or you've gotten to be around people who are experiencing that and you realize it. I know for some people it seems so far off from their everyday life, but the reality is, man, like if your everyday needs aren't being met as far as having a comfortable place to live, and being surrounded by people you love and every day waking up and getting to do things you love, that's real success right there. Is like your everyday needs being met. Everything else is just like icing on the cake. But for some reason we all get focused on like, I want to be doing this and that. I want to be at this level. I want to have this much money. And then because you feel like you can't get it, you put on a show and be like, oh, well, I'm at least going to pretend like I'm at that level. And it's like, for what? Like, why do that? And I think, and then we as consumers place too much emphasis on that, whether it's like the TV shows we watch and all this shit, or like the people we follow on Instagram. It's like we make them, famous because we are letting them sell like this fake life that is unachievable, So I don't know, that there's not like that I can't bring that into like one sentence, but I just think like people really being a little bit more aware of the stuff they're consuming, about what's really important. I think that's what I would like to see, because I think that would shift just how we all treat each other, the things that we do in this life. It's like if everybody can kind of focus in on those types of things, then people wouldn't be miserable at work or this and that, because they would realize what's truly important and just set kind of the bar that way. Even like for me, this whole quarantine thing is like I'm basically losing half of my salary because I'm not DJing right now. That's a big part of my salary. At first I was like, damn, like what am I gonna do with all that extra income coming in? But the reality is, like, for me, like, I've been saving a lot more money than I ever have. I'm putting more money away right now than I ever have. It's because I can't physically spend my money on stupid shit. I can't be going out all the time. I can't be doing this. So it's like I'm realizing now, like, all the stuff that I was telling, things I was telling myself, oh, I need to be making more money to do this, and that. And it's like, nah, like, I just need to, like, focus in on what's really important and not waste my time or waste my resources, in this case, money, on things that are unimportant. And I can start doing more of the things I want to do as well, So that's just, I guess, an example.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
We haven't heard this one.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to ask any other question, Anna?
Just maybe when this is over, you could invite us to Power 105. That'd be nice.
Okay. Check it out.
That's hard, though.
Nice. Huh? What you said?
I said that might probably be hard.
Yeah, it depends on what it is, but yeah, we probably work some out.
Well, I want to say thank you for accepting our invite.
Of course, thank you for having me.
I had to hit you up as soon as I saw the video. Let me send him a DM. Maybe he'll reply back. Everybody's home anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you again.
Nah, of course. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for asking me. Thank you for wanting to talk to me. I appreciate it. I'm humbled.
Of course. I'm like the big fan.
Oh, thank you.
So now we could be like, hey, we interviewed him.
Yeah, there you go. And now the lines of communication are open. That's what happens. That's the biggest thing. When you interview somebody, man, it don't even matter what the numbers do, because you just built a new relationship. That's like the biggest thing when it comes to this stuff. Like,
be surprised though, because we would have people that would deny us because we wouldn't have that much followers or viewers.
Right. I mean,
that's sad.
I get denied for interviewing people, or people don't answer my email sometimes. You just like, that's what it is. It is like there's so many forms of content and things like that some people aren't going to do it, and it kind of, it is what it is. But you take advantage of the ones that say yes, and when you do an interview like this, like, you do your best to stay in contact with people and keep the lines of communication open, and if it's just on social media and things like that, interacting, like that's what you gotta do. That's what I've done, and that's led to so many opportunities. Like, that's led to how I played at Webster Hall, or how I played at Irving Plaza, was because I interviewed that artist, probably a year ago, whatever it was. And whenever we'd see each other out, we'd hang out at events, and like we'd see each other randomly a couple times a year at different industry things. And that relationship just kind of kept building, you know. And then when they were playing in New York, he was like, yo, you want to come open for me? And that all came, again, from a podcast interview. So things like that, it's like this just gives you the opportunity to build a relationship with somebody that you might not have otherwise had the chance to. And, you know, some are going to turn into things, some aren't. But, you know, you just keep rolling with it and trying to meet different people. And that's kind of how you grow all this stuff and take advantage of it.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Here you go. This Gimme the Juice with Rena. Say it again. I can't hear you. Can you hear her?
I think it's breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm going to do it again.
What?
This Gimme the Juice with Rena.
And Nana.
You can find us at iTunes, Google Play, yogihair.com, anywhere, everywhere.